Today on What's That About, we are very excited to welcome Peter Shu, who is a candidate running for Cambridge City Council. Peter, thank you for joining us. We're really excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Howdy, folks.
So, Peter, why don't you, we'll start off with some very basic questions. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to Cambridge.
I am a physician. I still practice. I currently practice, and I work at Beth Israel as a hospital medicine doctor or a hospitalist, which just means that I take care of all the patients that get admitted to the hospital all the way until they're ready for discharge. That's a very brief version. I came to Cambridge about 5 years ago at this point. And after my training, I did my medical school and residency in internal medicine and pediatrics in Cleveland, Ohio, or Northeast Ohio.
Mhm.
And I did a fellowship training in pediatric hematology oncology, or basically kids with cancer and blood disorders in Nashville, Tennessee. And then after that, I got my attending job here in Boston. Initially, I was hired on as a pediatric oncologist here at Boston Children's in Dana-Farber. And then after a while, I also got into the hospital medicine side. Currently, I'm only working as a hospital medicine doctor, just because of time and various commitments. And so I had to give one up. Um, and that was how I got to Boston slash Cambridge.
Okay, so you've been you lived in some varied places. What's your favorite part about living here in Cambridge? And do you have any favorite neighborhoods or places to visit?
Well, I live in East Cambridge, so I must say that my favorite part is East Cambridge. The other parts are obviously fine, and I've door knocked in all areas in Cambridge, but East Cambridge, it has a very special place in my heart. The favorite part about Cambridge, I would say, would be, in my humble opinion, would be the people. My neighbors, my friends, and some families. That there, People have been very supportive. People have always been very kind to me, including making a transition from medicine. I'm not out of medicine, obviously, but to city politics. Folks have been very, very supportive. They have given me a lot of words of wisdom. And so I would say the favorite part about this city would be the people. And then food is also great. Obviously, you can see this. I eat a lot. I like food. So Cambridge food is awesome. It has a lot of cultures. It has a lot of diversity. So I also love that. There's a lot of parks around that I also like. The thing I don't like about Cambridge is traffic. But it is what it is.
All right. Well, you're preaching to the choir here. I'm a big East Cambridge fan myself.
Nice. We agree on
Um,
something. This is
yes. So, why are you running for council, and what would be your highest priority or signature issue?
This I can spend 3 days talking about this, but I'll cut it short. I think people are generally busy. I uh my clinical background, obviously, I took care of patients, kids with blood disorders and cancer. I also take care of adult patients in the hospital. But my academic focus was actually in health policy. I did research in health policy. We got published. We got grants. Um, when I came here, I continued to do academia. At some point, not really sure if it was COVID or midlife crisis, I started thinking about that academia probably wasn't the thing I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I loved health policy. I loved taking care of patients, but I didn't feel like the cycle of grants, more publications was the thing I wanted to do for life. So I started talking to mentors. I started talking to colleagues, and one of them said, "If you really like health policy, go into politics." At first, I was like, nah, man, I didn't come into medicine for politics. And then I started talking to more and more folks, and this idea was being brought up by more. And so I started thinking about it, but it wasn't until maybe 4 years ago when I took care of a patient that 30-something-year-old young guy got admitted for drug overdose. And when it
Mhm.
was time for discharge, I said, "My friend, you're ready to go." And he said, "I don't know what to do." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, other than drugs, I don't know what else to do with life. That was sort of the moment when I felt that, you know what, beyond the hospital walls, we probably needed a more robust healthcare system. And combining with all the words of wisdom that I got from different mentors and colleagues, I I decided that I would like to run for Cambridge City Council on a public health platform to make the city healthier, safer, and more united. I discussed this idea with my wife, Michelle. She asked me two questions. She said, "Are you going to make more money?" I said, "No, I'm sorry." And then she said, "Are you going to have more time for the family?" I said, I don't think so. I think the time commitment is about the same, to be very fair. Obviously, as doctors, we're really busy. Um,
Mhm.
but I think, based on what I looked at in my research, I told her I don't think so. But I think this is what I want to do. I think public service is really the thing I want to do. I want to make, our communities and societies a little better than when I first came here. So in the end, she was like, fine, if you were somebody else's husband, I would be definitely thrilled. But you're my husband. I don't know, but if you're passionate about this, I support you. So, and here I am, running for Cambridge City Council.
So what are some policies related to public health that you would be looking to prioritize on the
A
community?
lot. This is another 3-day discussion, but I will cut it short. So I think the I would love to raise the standards of public health for the most vulnerable populations in Cambridge. That I want to say first and foremost. And by that I mean, obviously all of us are very, very, very important, but I would like to focus, if elected, I would like to focus on folks with homelessness, mental health crises or issues, substance use disorders, disabilities, various impairments, dementia, and also folks having to stay home to take care of these folks.
Mhm.
I think Cambridge can do. Uh, I think Cambridge is a very lucky city, and we are equipped with some of the best healthcare amenities and also skill sets, than a lot of the cities on Earth. I think we can do a lot. For me personally, I think homelessness is a big issue that affects public health that we should address. And by taking care of these folks, I think we don't just take care of them. And I think it's a win-win situation. It's also a win for the communities, for the residents around, and for travelers and visitors to Cambridge. So that has to do with, obviously we have to provide them with immediate housing needs, with hot shower and stuff. And then after that, we have to be able to establish some kind of peer support group, education program for them to be willingly wanting to make a change. And that's not an easy process. And that is, homelessness is a big issue in a lot of the cities in the nation. But I think if we really dedicate ourselves, we can make some changes. And then it's the mental health issues and substance use. I'm not gonna lie, when I door knock, and also my kids, they actually, a lot of kids have experienced seeing needles on playgrounds. I don't think that is I think that is unacceptable in my opinion. So I think that's something that we can definitely do. I would love to expand the addiction medicine service in Cambridge. I would also love to plug folks with mental health diseases or conditions into our healthcare system. So in the long run, they can do better. So from a public health standpoint, I think those are some of the top priorities for me. Um, I also do want to emphasize that public health encompasses more than just taking care of the needles and insurance issues. Public health
Mhm.
extends to affordable housing, which I'm sure some of the questions are going to touch upon, bike lanes, green space, environment sustainability, and even fair economics. So I think it's unique. I know there hasn't been any candidate over the past 20 plus years who runs on a public health platform. But I think this is a unique opportunity for Cambridge, and myself, obviously, and I hope I would do a lot. I could do a lot with all of the Cantabrigians together.
Right. Yeah. I can see your kind of holistic approach to, not forgetting about things like green space and bike lanes and safety in the city. So um, maybe you can tell me a bit more about transportation, bike lanes, your stance on that. Do you support the cycling safety ordinance? And do you think Vision Zero, which is the goal of zero traffic fatalities, is possible?
I think so. But I think that is possible. I also support the CBS and in the cycling ordinance in general. I think the
Mhm.
principle is there, and not that this should matter, but I am also being endorsed by CBS. So I bike. I bike to work every day, rain or snow. Um,
Wow.
Although I hate it when it rains more than snow, to be very fair. When I bike, I have a raincoat when I go to work. Most of the time I bike. I bike to door knock. I bike to most places around Cambridge, or even in Boston where I work. So I am all for safe bike lanes. Having said
Mhm.
that, I don't think we're going to be able to have, because I do have a lot of cyclist friends and we talk all the time. I don't think we're going to be able to have a a bike lane on every single Cambridge street. I don't think that's going to be feasible. But I think on major arteries, I think on major roads, east, south, and I think we really need to focus on north. I said east, west. I think we really need to focus more on north, south, to be very fair.
Mhm.
I think as long as we have the road is from a public. So I want to emphasize something. I'm not very ideologically driven. As long as it's evidence-based from a public health standpoint, I would support. So for me, if the road is wide enough, I support building safe bike lanes, because I think having those bike lanes would be safer, not just for cyclists, but also for car drivers and also pedestrians. So my view on bike lanes is that generally, if the road is wide enough, and if we have all the things done correctly, I support. Um, I also have supporters who are not uh so keen on bike lanes because of parking spots, and I think those are real concerns also. So all in all, I think we have to have a master plan that addresses most of the issues that people are concerned about. But in terms of safe bike lanes, I would like to see that moving forward.
Okay. You kind of beat me to my next question there, which was about your commute. Is there anything you would change about your commute right now?
Um, no, I would say in general, no. There are certain segments of my commute to work that does not have bike lanes, and sometimes um, that is a little bit dangerous. I know my wife feels strongly to have uh bike lanes everywhere for her to bike safely. So, and I generally share that sentiment. I think if I and that I know that is a little bit selfish to say, but if all the paths that I go from home to work have, all of those paths have a dedicated bike lane, I would be thrilled. I know it's hard. I know there are things that we need to also take into consideration, that sometimes making that thing is not everywhere bike lane is not possible, but I would like to see that. That would be a change. Other than that, you know, I think I said that in the beginning. I don't like the traffic, to be very fair. I also know that it's very hard to not have traffic.
Yeah.
Uh, if I could change, I would. If I had a magic wand, I would say everybody travels without traffic. But that's not really possible. When I do drive around Cambridge, I find traffic really horrible. In fact, when I commute to work, if I were to drive, the time that it takes for me to drive to the hospital, parked, and get to the hospital is actually longer than if I were to bike from Cambridge to Brookline, or the Boston area. So
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. It's some terrible traffic in and around Greater Boston. Um, Switching gears a little bit, Housing is obviously a very fraught issue in Cambridge and across the state. Prices to rent or buy in Cambridge are near the most expensive in the country. And lately, the council has passed citywide upzoning and affordable housing overlay, removed parking minimums, and allowed ADUs, among other actions, to try to address the housing issue. Do you approve of all these changes? And what else would you like to see done to housing laws, if anything?
This is a very good question. This is also a very complicated question.
Mhm.
Um, Compared to the previous questions where I could go on for 3 days, this is probably going to be a month, to be very fair.
Sure.
After the zoning upzoning thing was passed, obviously, if we take around if we take a look at around the neighborhoods, various communities and neighborhoods, we see a lot of signs and yard signs that that do not approve that, and there's a lot of anger in a lot of the voters that I've come across with. So to answer this question
Mhm.
as concisely as possible, which is probably not possible, but I am concerned about the upzoning bill that got passed recently. I think the intention is good. The truth is, like you mentioned, um, rent, housing price, they're all up. Um, and so we need to build more. I agree with that. How we go about that is, I think, what many of us have differences in opinions about. And I don't have a magic middle ground for everyone, like the golden ratio or anything like that. I don't. But I think it is important to listen to all voices and try to come up with a middle ground that might not be happy for everyone, but it is the most balanced compromise. I am concerned about the upzoning bill and in certain aspects of the I know people talk about setbacks and stuff like that. I am concerned about the effect of this upzoning bill. The multifamily upzoning thing, again, I think it's good intention, um, but I would just share my vision concisely. I think along the major arteries of Cambridge, we should build big and tall. Um, Obviously, we have to be safe. As long as
Mhm.
it's safe, we should build big and tall. In established neighborhoods, I don't necessarily mind going up for to accommodate more. I do think that there should be some kind of review process in established neighborhoods, so that if somebody wants to go up, there should be some kind of review process to make sure that we're not cutting down trees excessively, especially the big ones. We're not blocking our neighbor's solar panels. I mean, those are all things that I think would make a neighborhood more compatible in terms of harmony. To be very fair, again, I don't think going up is wrong, but I think there should be some type of review process to make sure that what we are going to be doing is in the best interest of the neighborhood for established neighborhoods. Again, along the major arteries, I favor building tall and big. And I think, by having more supplies, consequently, rent and price will probably come down. So that is my take.
Okay. So yeah, you mentioned prices. On top of, the housing issue, we're just living in a very uncertain economic environment. We've got White House interference, commercial revenues likely to decrease. We have decreased international students, decreased tourism. So to address that, would you support potentially increased taxes and fees like the parking permit fee? Or do you feel the budget should shrink? And if so, what would you cut?
I think it's a combination, meaning that I do think that budgets need to be looked at, investigated, and potentially shrunken. Because I think all of us who have families or who work, I think we all know that at times when we need to make ends meet, and if we don't have enough money at our hands, We got to cut down on some kind of vacays or some kind of things in life that might be deemed as luxurious. So I do think the budget needs to be, knowing that the budget is going to be federal funding is going to get cut and all these kind of stuff. I do think that the budgets need to be looked at carefully. And there are things that are going to be prioritized over other things. For me, personally, if elected, I would prioritize um budgets that have more to do with public health of the city. Again, again, I'm gonna say public health is not just about needles and insurance and all these kind of stuff. It has a lot of other impacts too. So as long as a bill or a budget has to do with public health and it affects more people than other potential items, I would favor that. I want to help as many people as possible in a budget-friendly fashion. In terms of raising property taxes or other fees, I I think it's unavoidable. And if that's what it takes to at least make our city function a little bit optimally, I favor that. I don't think it's a I don't want people to pay extra, obviously. I don't want to pay extra selfishly. But if that's the thing that we need to do in order to make our city function a little better, on top of being careful and cautious with budget, I support that.
What about improving the arts and cultural life in Cambridge? Do you have any ideas there on how to make Cambridge a more, uh, artistic place, or any thoughts about that?
Yes, I do actually. So I've been door knocking since last November. I've come across quite a few artists and musicians.
Mhm.
One of the things I've heard from these folks was that artists and musicians, they don't have the platform here to either perform or showcase their talents. And I think that's a shame. To be very fair, I think Cambridge has has the potentials really to become an art hub for just like technology and healthcare. I think we have the potential to do that, and I think we should and we must do that because we have so much talent here. So I would say having um and it's not necessarily dedicated space, to be very fair. We have unused spaces in the city that I think we can dedicate to arts and music, and so that artists and musicians, they have a place to perform. People know that there are these spots that they can come and enjoy these art pieces. The other thing I would say would be culinary, would be food. I think again, I eat too much. I get it, but I love food, and I think food is a very essential part of our lives. And Cambridge has so much to offer. From Italian, where I live there, East Cambridge, there is a lot of Italian cuisine, to Asian, to to Cuban, to Ethiopian, to you name it. I mean, everything is here. So I think and just because I'm not mentioning like other types of food, that doesn't mean I'm a big fan of Indian foods too. So I just want to say that I try a lot of different
Mhm.
foods, and that's why my BMI is not coming down as much as I want. But I do think we can be a culinary hub. Also, we can definitely have I would love to make Cambridge into a big center or hub for art, music, and food.
Yeah, there's a ton of potential there. You mentioned unused spaces for performing arts. That kind of leads me to my next question, which would be, how do you address all the vacant storefront spaces in the city, especially in, some of the major squares like Central and Harvard?
Um, yeah. Unfortunately, that's the current reality that we have about, say, for like Kendall Square, I think we have 30% unoccupied space.
Mhm.
Um, I think we can do a lot with these spaces. Number one, for me personally, um, I would I would love to convert some of them, obviously with criteria set and stuff. I would love to convert some of them into affordable housing and homeless shelters. We need both,
Yeah.
with hot shower and with space for peer groups and educational programs. I think that would be wonderful. That's number one. Number two, I think we can convert those spaces into, again, spaces dedicated for art, music, and food. I think we can use those. And in doing those processes, we generate work. There are going to be job opportunities, and there are going to be more opportunities surrounding those projects, that can be everlasting for this city. So I favor using unoccupied spaces for these purposes.
Do you have a stance on safe injection sites, or I think they're often called recovery prevention centers?
I do. Uh, I support. The
Okay.
long story short is I support. The truth is, in life, we're not going to be able to um, solve every issue. Substance use is a very hot topic. Narcotic overdose, and I don't mean to throw numbers around, but narcotic overdoses um, kill about more than 700 people in Cambridge every year. That is a huge number.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to minimize bike fatalities or fatalities of around traffic and stuff like that. But compared to that, I think we can do a whole lot for substance use in Cambridge, and we should. And I expect myself, with my background, to focus really on this issue a lot. So to answer the question, um, no matter what we do, there are going to be folks who use substance. And I think for these folks, obviously, educational program is very important. Peer support group is also very crucial, important. Just like AA for folks with alcoholic issues. I, you know, because we are not able to prevent folks from using substance, all of them. I think having safe injection sites and prevention clinics and addiction medicine sites, I think that those are super important. I favor that.
If you were on the city council for the last session, who would you have voted for mayor and why?
Whoa. Um, I don't remember who got the most votes first round, but I would vote for that person. I just think um that represents voices from different neighborhoods, because obviously Cambridge City Council is at large, so that probably represents the most voices. And so I know a lot of the counselors, and um I would say, we are all pretty friendly, but I don't have ties with any one of them in particular. But I would say, if I were on the last, city council, whoever got the most votes first round, I would probably support to be the mayor.
Okay. Well, finally, after some connection issues, the last question I have for you is there anything you wish we'd asked, or you wish that we'd covered, or anything else you would want to say to the viewers, as your parting words in our interview?
I think overall this was a great session. I think the questions that you covered, they covered the highlights of what this election is about. Affordable housing and bike lanes, they are obviously uh, some of the most debated topics in this election and past elections also. And other surrounding issues. I think those were all covered really well. I'm very appreciative of the fact that I could use my time here to stress my view and on the importance of public health, which is my major running platform. The only thing I would say, and this is no one's fault, was that I only got the questions right before this interview, so I had just minutes to review the questions. So a lot of the questions, a lot of the answers, I had to basically just think on the fly. So, you know, I, if I had time to really ponder on those questions, maybe like the answers would be a little bit more smoother, or uh they would flow a little better. I think my gists are there, and so if any folks have any questions about what I said, maybe one part didn't agree with the other part, which might happen. um I would I welcome any input, any feedback, and folks can feel free to reach out to me, and I can give them I can clarify on things.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. We definitely had to do a lot of maneuvering on both ends. We both have busy schedules, so the questions didn't get out to you until right before this interview, but we really appreciate your time and you being so willing to sit down and talk with us and answer all our questions. So thank you, Peter, for coming to join us and telling us all about your platform.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.